So here we are, kids, at the Battle of Antietam. You are now looking at the Cornfield. This is the first place we're going to go in 2 weeks when we go visit Antietam and Harper's Ferry. Actually, we'll be here on Tuesday. But in this battle, where over 20,000 soldiers were killed, this site right here in this cornfield was the bloodiest part of this little battle, this one-day battle. Over 8,000 soldiers died here on this field, and during this portion of the trip we're going to explore why this cornfield was so important. And you can see that line of trees up there in the distance. That's called the East Woods. We're going to walk through those and explore those. But anyway, out of those East Woods came the Union troops. You can see them right here. These are the East Woods. And the Union troops also came down from the north up here through the field. And along this line, which is where we're standing, you'll see on our car, the Confederates had their cannons lined up, the artillery. And of course, they were aiming, the cannons were all aiming that way with their big cannons going whoop, over there, and trying to destroy all of the Union guys coming down from the north to attack the south on this cornfield. So in this little presentation we're going to explore some of these elements. Go ahead and look at the next slide. Here we are at the Cornfield Trail. We're going to actually walk down this trail starting here. We're going to go all the way there, and we're going to come up to these cannons. That's where little Johnny Cook stood. He was a cannoneer. We're going to learn about him a little bit. He was one of the youngest guys during this battle. We're going to walk up there, and we're going to walk all the way down here into the East Woods. We're going to spend some time exploring those woods. Hopefully we'll have on some long pants. But in these East Woods, we're going to learn about why the Union troops wanted to come through there to have more protection from the cannons. Because, of course, if they weren't visible, the artillery guys from the south didn't know where to shoot their cannons, and they didn't want to waste their ammunition. But this will be a fun little walk. It looks not like it's not much distance, but it's probably a football field or two in length. It's not. When Chris and I walked through there today, we were huffing and puffing. So we're going to have some fun walking through this trail as we learn about this important portion in the Battle of Antietam. Here's another view of the cornfield where we're at right now. And again, we're just going to go ahead and take a little walk. You can see the cannons in the distance. There they are. That represents the Union line. Of course, they were all pointing this way. Right? They all were firing this way upon the Confederate troops. And you'll see when we get here that this is actually sloping down. So the Confederates had a better angle because they had the higher ground and it was harder. We're also going to see these fences, and Chris will talk a little bit about how important these fences were and what they were used for and how difficult it made trekking across the field for troops. Here we are, still at the cornfield, of course. You can see the cannons in the distance. You can see Eastwood. The East Woods over there, that's far right. And you can see the fence line. Chris is going to talk a little bit here. I filmed him telling us a little bit about the importance of this part of the battle. Here he is talking. Check out this video. Here we are at the cornfield. So this right here was the bloodiest part of this particular battle, correct?
Part of the battle. First Corps under Hooker, up there, and then Mansfield, 2nd Corps, or wait, 12th Corps. Sorry, 12th Corps, coming through the woods, the East Woods over there. Those cannons in the distance mark where the furthest advance of the Union troops. Johnny Cook, the youngest recipient of the Medal of Honor, right here, Johnny Cook, 15 years old. manned and kept those batteries firing, even when the Confederates reached that position when they counterattacked.
So over 8,000 people were killed here in this field.
8,000 people. Now, the actual troops were probably about other side of that barn, basically. That barn right there, down. That's where the troops would have been. So they would have been crossing this avenue. This road wasn't here. Of course, there wasn't any paved roads, but there wasn't this road either. It wasn't even here. So,
and you had the cannons lined up here.
cannons lined up here. There were 15,000 troops involved, and there were 12,000 Confederates down here facing them.
15,000 Union, right?
15,000, 12,000 Confederates. And the Confederates lost, or the Union lost 4,200, and the Confederates lost 4,000, so 8,200 people casualties. Now, casualties means that they were either killed or wounded in battle, could no longer fight. That was what casualty meant back then. Now, most of the people that didn't fall actually in the field, they fell, taken to the hospitals, legs, arms amputated. Most of them died of diseases from their wounds afterwards. Anywhere from within a few days, those didn't survive surgery, to those that succumbed to disease within the next month. So, this was the largest of the battles that took place at Antietam. The Sunken Road had fewer troops involved, and then Burnside's Bridge, the other major portion, had even fewer troops involved.
So this was the largest
This was
the largest battle
portion of the battle.
27,000 troops. It's a lot of people.
Well, 27,000 troops.
Right.
27,000 total troops were involved here. The Union attacked with 15. Confederates defended with 12. Man, crazy.
So there you have it, the cornfield. You can go on to the next slide to see an image of Johnny Cook. So Johnny Cook was the youngest guy. He was a kid, really. He was a young teen who fought at this battle on the cornfield. And as you can read here, he got the Medal of Honor for the work he did as a cannoneer. Some of the older guys around him got wounded, were shot, and he went ahead and started helping to load up the cannons to shoot them down to the southern part of the cornfield where the Confederate troops were lined up. So here he is, and you can actually see he played a bugle. I believe that's why he was called this right here. But in his left hand, you can see that right there. And of course, this is the medal. But you can see his costume just like the one we're going to put on the first night when we go out. And you can see he has not only his little bugle, but I'm not sure what he's carrying in his right arm, his right hand there. What do you all think that is? I'm not sure. It looks like a saber of sorts. Maybe it was something that helped him load the cannons into the cannonballs into the cannon. I'm not sure what that is. I'm sure Chris can tell us. But here he is, young guy, not much older than you boys, who fought in this battle, helping the Union in this massive attack on the southern line. You'll learn much more about some other guys during this trip, young guys who fought during the war. Oh, I'm getting a telephone call. Let me pause this. And here we are at Sunken Road. You can see how the road sinks. This was a big part of the battle. French and Richardson's troops came down because they couldn't get through Cornfield, so they came down through the East Woods and started attacking, and D.H. Hill's troops lined up along this hill, this little, not really a hill, but this little road, this sunken road. Imagine the soldiers lying down on that little hill below those trees with their guns pointed out across the field. Of course, those were the Confederate troops. And a massive fight ensued right here, and lots of soldiers died in the road. This road was pretty much a bloodbath. Check out these videos.
Georgians, moving Georgians here, and Colonel Gordon, and over there would have been 2 Union divisions, Richardson and Weber, I believe. I have to double check that one, the actual presentation. And they came over that little hill right there, and they ran right into this, which would have been belly down Confederates laying down here along behind this fence in this sunken road, firing, with people behind them reloading their weapons for them, because it took about 45 seconds to reload a gun, 30, 45 seconds, depending how good you were. And on the other side over here, on the other side of this hill, sunken road, sorry, would have been the Confederate artillery, which was blasting them as they came down that hill.
Mm-hmm.
So they fought from 9:30 in the morning until about 1:30 in the afternoon. The Union eventually captured this road, but by that point they had exhausted their troops and they couldn't go any further. So this is the second stage of the battle, and it lasted for about 3 hours. I'm sorry, 4 hours, till 1:30. Yeah. I'm sorry, French's division. That's who it was.
French's division?
French's division, yeah.
And we can walk down this path too with the students.
Oh, we would. Because there are some memorials over here we'd want to look at. One of the greatest losses from this section would have been General Israeli Richardson's death on the field. Well, mortally wounded on the field. He eventually died of infection in the Union hospital.
Right. I got that in the soldier
He
book.
was one of the key Union generals.
Mm-hmm.
With his death, they sort of had to wait until Grant and Sherman were ready to take over. Because the rest of the Union generals were pretty much useless on this side. After the battlefield, the Cornfield had pretty much ended in a draw. McClellan, the overall Union commander, orders 2 divisions, one under French, the other one under Richardson, to attack the center of the lines. Lee's lines were here. Back there would have been Lee's headquarters. So this was the center of the line. Guarding that was Colonel Gordon, the Georgia Volunteers, on this sunken road which bends around there. The road was formed by decades, by centuries of farm carts going to Sharpsburg using this lane. And since it was dirt, it would sink under all the weight. And after decades of use, it got deeper and deeper. So, the Confederates sat there belly down as French's troops, the 1st Division, had come across. They came over that little hill there, and as soon as they got to the top of that hill, the Confederate artillery, which was sitting here, and then the troops sitting there, had a perfect shot as they came over that little hill, and they just mowed them down like grass. The battle lasted about 4 hours, until about 1:30 in the afternoon. The overall commander here was D.H. Hill, brother of A.P. Hill, 2 very famous Civil War generals. And the commander of the spot was Colonel Gordon, of the, as I said, the Georgia Volunteers.
And the reason they didn't come down this way was because they got stopped, right?
This is the cornfield here.
Right.
So McClellan, they've been stopped. Here's the east woods. Here's the cornfield. They were stopped here. So McClellan orders an attack through the center of the lines. He thinks that Lee has reinforced here, and he's reinforced to the south. So McClellan thinks that the center right here is the weakest part. Lee has no reserves left, so he throws his troops in here. Unfortunately for McClellan, French, especially some of his division commanders, whose names I'll give you later, were not very aggressive. And when they attacked, they sort of, as soon as they met resistance, they sort of fell back.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, General Richardson had to rally pretty much both divisions and lead them again out in a charge.
He was wounded here, right?
And he was wounded here. He was knocked out. His horse was shot. He was shot.
He died later.
But his efforts to get his troops moving did succeed, and that over the course of 4 hours, after charge over this little hill over here, they finally shattered the sunken road lines, and Gordon's troops and Chill, over our commander here, were forced to retreat back towards Longstreet's command where Lee was. But they couldn't go any further. So yes, they captured the Sunken Road, and it was piled dead with Confederates. But they killed so many, they lost 3,000 taking this position.
Wow.
And the Confederates lost about 2,500 holding it.
Wow.
Okay, in terms of casualties.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they weren't all dead, a lot of them were wounded. But that was the pretty much, when you say casualties, that's what you had.
Right. A lot of them died later. Not right here. From their wounds.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's pretty much